Okay, so have you heard about this kid?
I haven't heard anything yet. Lay it on me.
So there's this story um, about a 7-year-old boy,
7 years old.
yeah,
Wow.
who survived 5 days alone
5 days.
in a national park in Zimbabwe
My goodness.
with lions.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's awful.
And this is a real story. It's not like
Not a movie.
not a movie.
Oh, wow.
It was in VanguardNGR.com,
Okay.
and it was published yesterday, January 3rd, 2025.
Wow. So this is brand new.
Yeah, so it's like a breaking story.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so the title is 7-Year-Old Boy Survives 5 Days in Lion-Infested Zimbabwe Park.
Oh, my goodness.
That's intense.
Yeah, that's pretty scary stuff.
So I figured we could take a deep dive into this
I'm ready.
and see what we can learn about, like, survival and,
Yeah, what's going
the
on?
human spirit and all that.
Totally. Yeah, the resilience of a 7-year-old. I mean, that's just mind-blowing.
To be able to survive something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about like all the things that could go wrong
Right.
and, just being out there on your own. And then you had lions to the mix.
Lions.
I mean, come on.
It's crazy.
It's like something out of a movie, but it's real life.
Totally. And what's interesting to me is, like, when we think of survival instincts, we think of, like, Bear Grylls or some kind of...
Yeah, some expert,
Yeah.
right? Someone who knows what they're doing.
Exactly. Or even, like, a teenager or an adult, like somebody
With some experience,
who has some, like, kind of,
street smarts,
street smarts or, just knowledge
and common sense.
of the world. But like a 7-year-old, it's just...
They just see the world so differently. And what's fascinating is that there's actually research on this, that children, particularly around that age, might actually have like a survival advantage.
an advantage.
Yeah, because they haven't fully developed those same fear responses that adults have.
Okay.
Right? So they're not constantly like, oh my God, a lion,
Yeah.
They're more curious and playful.
So it's almost like they're looking at it as like an adventure or a game.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a double-edged sword, of course.
Yeah.
Like that lack of fear can lead them into danger, but it also makes them more adaptable.
So instead of being paralyzed by fear,
Right.
they're kind of just like, oh, okay, like what's next?
Exactly. They're just rolling with it. And, we also can't discount the environmental factors here. I mean, a 7-year-old is small.
Tiny.
Right. They can find shelter in places an adult wouldn't even think to look.
Like under a log or something?
Exactly.
Uh.
And their size might even make them less threatening to certain animals.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's like this little kid navigating this vast, dangerous landscape.
It really paints a picture in your mind, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
But one thing that stood out to me in the article was that they used the term lion-infested, which is a very loaded term.
It is. It kind of makes it seem like the lions are the problem.
Right, like it's their fault.
But we're the ones going into their home. It's their national park.
Right, exactly. We're encroaching on their territory. And this whole incident really highlights how complex it is to manage these areas.
Yeah, you're right.
Balancing conservation with human safety, especially when communities live so close to these wild animals.
So it's like, how do we even begin to reconcile those two things?
Well, it's a tough question, and there's no easy answer.
Right.
But I think it starts with education.
Okay.
Like educating the communities about how to coexist with wildlife.
Okay.
And also, promoting responsible tourism.
To minimize the impact.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you need robust park management strategies.
So like rangers and stuff.
Well, yeah, rangers, but also using modern technology like sensor networks and predictive modeling to track animal movements.
Wow, that's really high tech.
Yeah, it's amazing what they can do these days. And it helps to identify potential conflict zones so they can be avoided.
Oh, that's smart.
And, speaking of all that effort and technology,
Yeah.
we can't forget about the search and rescue team.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how did they even find this kid after 5 days
It's a logistical nightmare,
in that kind of terrain?
Absolutely. I mean, they're probably using everything at their disposal. Aerial surveillance, tracking dogs, maybe even thermal imaging.
Wow, so like a full-on operation.
Oh, yeah. And every minute counts.
Mm.
Exposure, dehydration, wild animals. It's a race against time.
I can't even imagine the pressure they must be under.
It must be intense. Absolutely.
And then there's the aftermath.
Yeah.
Like, the article doesn't really go into detail, but what about the psychological impact on this boy?
Right. How could there not be? 5 days alone in the wilderness at 7 years old?
It's got to leave a mark.
Trauma is almost a given,
For sure.
He's going to need specialized care, probably Therapy specifically designed for children who have gone through these kinds of experiences.
Yeah, like play therapy or something.
Exactly. It's about helping him process those feelings of fear and isolation and maybe address any long-term anxieties about nature or open spaces.
Right, because I would think after that experience, you'd never want to go outside again.
It's understandable, right?
Yeah.
But it's amazing how resilient kids can be.
It's true. I mean, look at this kid. He survived.
Exactly.
Against all odds.
It really makes his survival that much more incredible, doesn't it?
It really does. And it kind of makes you think about our place in the world.
Yeah, like what's our responsibility to protect both people and these ecosystems?
Big questions, huh?
Big questions indeed, and I think this story really forces us to confront them head on.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway of all.
Maybe it is.
So I guess that's our deep dive for today.
Until the next crazy story breaks, right?
Right.
Always something.
That's the world we live in.
That's for sure.
Yeah.